The Kamakura Troubled Company Index started in 1990, and what it measures is the percentage of companies in our coverage universe, which is 38,000 companies, that have a 1-month default probability that's in excess of 1%. So in doing that, what it measures is the 1% of the total coverage of companies that at any point in time are the riskiest in our universe. The use of it is really multifaceted. The simplest use is basically showing the state of the economy in the short run relative to default probability. So default probabilities rise and fall with business conditions. Looking at the 1-month default probability shows the shortest measure of potential financial distress within the economy. So you could look at it on a global basis if you look at all 38,000 companies, because that's incorporating data from 68 countries. It also allows you to focus in on specific countries, and it also allows you to look at certain sectors. So you could basically see which sectors have higher risk than others on a relative basis. Over the last 6 months in the US, what you basically find is a couple key trends. Most industries are doing very well. From a standpoint, there is a very low probability of default. But having said that, there are clearly certain industries that have been under stress. Probably the most obvious one is the retail sector. And it is not what you would necessarily typically think the results would be. There are a number of the traditional brick and mortar retailers like Home Depot and Lowe's and Kohl's that have very low default probabilities, which indicate that they are doing just fine even in the world of e-commerce. But then you also see a number of more traditional brick and mortar retailers, stores like Sears, JCPenney, that definitely have felt the effect of Amazon and have a very high default probability. Those firms that have not adjusted their strategies to basically be relevant in an environment where people could order anything they want online. The UK is actually quite fascinating. I had not really started noticing this until several months ago, where I attended a conference in Amsterdam, and there was a presentation made on how the various EU countries were performing. And economically, Great Britain was performing worse than any other EU country, including the usual suspects like Greece or Italy. And as a result of that, I started looking more closely at our Troubled Company Index on the EU countries. And what I did find, a disproportionate number of the high-risk businesses within the EU tended to be UK firms. And in fact, in the last 2 months, when we take a look at actual defaults, almost 80% of the global defaults have been from UK companies. So one of the things that the Troubled Company Index on a sector basis will do is provide you with very good information on where various sectors are. So if we look at it today, what we find is that retail and telecommunications on a global basis are both in a downturn. We see that the energy and natural resource sectors are in a recovery position where capital markets are lending money to them again. And we see certain sectors such as healthcare, utilities, and green energy very much in an expansionary mode where there is lots and lots of capital available. So that longer-term expected cumulative default measure provides very good insight into not only what the short and medium-term future is by sector, but also where the potential risks are and where the potential spreads could be.
In our first video with Martin, he talked in more detail about how Kamakura can help risk managers by predicting financial defaults, so click to watch that if you haven't seen it already. Learn more at kamakuraco.com. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for the latest international business insights from worldfinance.com.